on the screen?
Well, welcome to the SlimNation One-On-Ones Podcast. I'm Slim Overton, of course, and have a special guest here with us. She's not new to our platforms. I have another platform called A Portion of Coffee Talk, and she was on there with myself and other co-hosts, and
Right.
talked about how she got started in the tea business. And I wanted her to come on the one-on-ones conversation because it's more like the title says one-on-ones, and we can talk a little bit about, her and what's coming up with her and what she's been doing. And how you doing, Sabrina? How's everything
I'm
going?
doing I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the show, James.
Yes, thank you for agreeing to come on. Last time we saw each other was at Starbucks. We stopped and got some
Right.
coffee and did a little video, quick video. But then she gave me some tea, which let me tell you about the tea. Because I'm a coffee drinker in the morning, but that tea that I would drink in the afternoons or at night was relaxing, and it was different from the regular tea. I guess regular tea, what I would call regular tea, would do the same thing, but having those different flavors and the names that you have for them, even reading the names are relaxing. So I would encourage everybody. And don't get mad at me. I hadn't ordered mine yet, but I will
Oh, that's
after the
okay.
show. I promise you. After the show, I'm going to put in an order for some.
Well, you
And my
remind
wife,
me. Do you mind if I
go,
get my tea? Is steep is
yes,
going on
yes, go
here.
ahead,
Let me
go
get
ahead,
my tea. I'll be right back.
go ahead. Before she came on, she was making her tea, and so she's going to get it. She's going to get it and be right back with her. But as I was saying, she gave me some tea from her tea line to share with my wife. My wife never did get it because I drank it all. Once I started drinking it and the different flavors and how it relaxed me, uh, you know, I just did it all. So I'm gonna have to order some more so my wife can experience it as well. Like I said, I'm a coffee person in the morning that gets me hyped up. We have some shows in the morning that are 7 o'clock, and so we get up pretty early. But in the afternoon, what you want to do is relax, and I can't think of a better way to relax than you don't want to drink coffee, but you want to have some of Sabrina's girlfriend's tea. And she agreed to be on here with me, and we've been friends for a while. We met at the radio station, uh, Christian Broadcasting Station. I can't remember the call letters now. I've been away from there for a while, but it's 1400, 1350 on your dial, and now they have some AM stations. But anyway, that's where we met, and we see each other occasionally at different events. I think I saw her at a hardball that we had. So most people know I'm a heart transplant recipient, and she was one of the hosts, I believe, or you had some words to say there. But anyway, I see her at events like that, but she's everywhere, and which is a good thing. I wonder when she has a chance to rest, but I wanted to bring her on here to sort of give us an update what's going on with her now. And I also wanted to ask her, if you've been watching her, she retired from the post office and sort of went into the tea business. And I wanted to know, and along with the tea business, it also has a purpose of, of those who may have been sexually abused at a young age. And I think that's a big part of what you do, bringing awareness to that, and you being a victim of that yourself. And one of the great things I think is people that have suffered through that, being able to come on and talk about it, because you never know who you might reach, and give them the opportunity to speak out about it, maybe not as publicly, but to go to someone, because that's something that can live with inside you pretty much for the rest of your life. But you just have to learn how to manage it, because it can be kind of devastating at a young age like that. So tell me this: when you start thinking about doing that, how important was your spirituality, your faith, in helping you sort of come out and even talk about it, and then combine that with the T line, which gave you a bigger audience, and then you can say, okay, let me also combine this issue that a lot of people deal with. I know your faith had a big part in that, in giving you the strength to do it.
Well, thank you again for having me, James. Well, I want to share, where God highlights his deliverance, from distress. He offers reassurance, and, everybody suffers, even Jesus suffered. There will be
Yes.
suffering, but we have victory in everything. And Psalm 34:18 speaks of God's closeness to the brokenhearted. For me, everybody's experience is different.
Mhm.
Everybody's trauma is different. For me, I didn't feel any trauma. I can be
Mm.
honest with you, but it impacted me, and that's true story. But I say the significance of that was, I don't want to get into too much, but the significant was that it was not anything. It was more touching. I'll put it that way. It was
Right.
more touching. Had it been anything more than that, I think I would have experienced the trauma.
It probably would have been
So
worse,
I'm
but
used to talking about this intimately with women. I'm going to be honest. Women
yeah,
only audience, but I'm
yeah,
okay. I can talk about it. I'm not traumatized by it, but
yeah.
it was not anything that it was more touching, more touching. So it's still not good because it introduces children to a sensation or an experience that they're not mature enough to process. I
Right,
used to
right.
serve on the board of Stop Abuse, and the board is no longer active after the executive director passed away. But the
Yeah,
surprising thing, the reason
I've served on that board as well years ago.
you did what now?
You said that you served on the board of what? Stop?
Stop Abuse
Yeah. Oh,
with
stop
Regina
abuse. Okay,
Marsheider.
go ahead.
Yes, with
Go
Regina
ahead.
Marsheider. And
Yes.
so I really didn't speak out about it publicly. I didn't even think about it. I mean, I knew it happened, but it wasn't haunting me. It's God's grace. It wasn't haunting me, and I know this about myself now, and I've said it several times. And some of my friends say you're right on point about that with yourself. The things that should bother me, I haven't experienced everything in life, but those things that my friends are concerned about that I share, they don't bother me. It's the little things. And when I say the little things, it's the little things that occur daily, weekly, and I'm talking about on the job. Things like that on the job. If you're working a job and you have to work with this team and it's always a challenge, or just in associates, with associates, you have these those little things. But one would
Mhm.
think that would have traumatized me, but I forgot all about it. And it wasn't anything like, I blocked it out, nothing like that. It's just that I have a tendency to move on. And when I move on, I really do move on. I'm not saying I'm
Mhm.
better than anyone else. This is Sabrina. This is how I
Mhm.
process. But I can promise you, the Bible says the small foxes spoil the vine. I can promise you there were a lot of small things that worried me more than what I went through.
Right.
Also, with those small foxes that spoil the vine, it's not something I can get away from. And it happens repeatedly. In this situation, or in that instance, when I shared it, it was only a handful of times. But as a mother would say, all it takes is one time. So let me explain, and you probably already know, but let me explain to the audience.
Mhm.
I thought child sexual abuse was just that, anything involving sex. But per the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, I don't have my information up, but I've been to the site several times. Per the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Child sexual abuse involves also exposing children to pornography.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to process that in their heads. It involves showing them pornography, whether it be on television or in a book. So there are various ways to commit child sexual abuse, even if it's just a touch, but somewhere inappropriately. The child can't comprehend it. They don't understand that. So one of the ways to prevent that, I found out to have a greater chance of preventing your child from being silent about it, was when I interviewed Regina Marsheider. I'm going to keep that interview forever because she was amazing. And I had no idea this information that she shared about. Often the perpetrators, first of all, they're known. So I think it's interesting that when someone is violated in a sexual way by a stranger, then that's rape. But when it's done by the same act, forcibly done by someone that we know, especially, it's child sexual abuse. See, child sexual abuse is not stranger danger. In child sexual abuse, the victim is familiar with the person. So it's very important, my tip that I learned from Regina Marsheider, that parents, and if it's not a parent, aunties, uncles, it takes a village, that parents, responsible adults, share about child sexual abuse. You give your child a fighting chance to want to talk with you about it, because in my case, I didn't want to share. I didn't want to share with my mom. It was uncomfortable. I didn't want to share. So there you go. But I just forgot about it and moved on and didn't think much about it. I shared it when I was interviewed by Regina Marsheider. Well, when I interviewed her, but I shared it when I was interviewed by Dr. Don Bell at my own conference. I shared about it publicly and just said, hey, I've had worse things. I've had less things traumatize me. But again, I think it involves, all of it is not good. Trust me, it's ugly. It's not God. It's from the pit of hell, all of that. But God has given me an innate ability to be able to, he gave that to me as a child, to be able to process that and just move on. I didn't even think about it. Even when somebody else was talking about it in the media, I didn't think about it. The only thing that arrested me, and I've shared this already, is when, and then I'm going to pause so that you can say something, is when I watched a show. I don't know if it was Oprah or Phil Donahue. And the little girl said that she told her mom. So that was the only thing that made me feel like I wasn't normal, that I should have told my mom. But I did not tell my mom, because my mother raised 3 children all by herself. She was a sweet woman, but when she was upset, I'm being nice, but she could be a hellion. She knew how to raise, Hell.
If you mess with her kids.
Huh?
If you mess with her family.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I saw her. I won't say her name. She's still living, but I went and picked the fight because some of my friends pumped me up and said, Sebrina, go stand up to your, what do you call those bullies? Go stand to your bullies. And so they psyched me up, James. This woman was twice my size, twice wider than me. And she wasn't fat. She was just big and muscular and all that. And I went and knocked on her door as a child. And they told me what to say. I said, meet me at the tree. And everybody knew what that tree was. Meet me at the tree at 2. I'm saying 2 o'clock. I don't know what time it was. Because my girls were behind me. You go. You get her, girl. You get her. And then when we got out there, and I'll get back to my mother being like she was. But when we got out there, a crowd came. They told everybody. I was embarrassed that a crowd was there. But this was right out there in Tidewater Park.
Yeah.
And they put the stick on the shoulder. Do you remember that, James?
Yeah.
They would put the popsicle stick on the shoulder, and then they knock it
They
off.
would actually physically do that. You hear people talk about it, but people would do that. And that's the fight.
That's right. And whenever it's like in the boxing match, they say, let's get ready to rumble. So when they knocked that popsicle stick, it was time to rumble. I don't know. I think she knocked it off of me. And all I remember is like in the cartoons, because I'm not a fighter. I was just doing this with my head down. She
Mm,
busted my nose. Blood was everywhere. I scratched her face up, pulled her shirt off. But I felt good because I stood up to her. But what hurt me the most was when my two friends that egged me on, I thought I did great. I said, how'd I do? They said, she beat you up. And I was so
mm,
hurt because they were the ones who pumped me up. But getting back to parents, it's imperative. So one of my themes that I shared when I was really talking about it was sit down, have a cup of tea, and talk to your daughter or your son about it. Open the door early so that they will feel comfortable coming to you. Because when somebody says, and that's what he said to me, this is our secret. When an adult goes to a child and says, this is our secret, if that child does not have a very intimate and trusting relationship with his or her parent, and sometimes they still won't tell, the chances decrease that they'll talk.
indeed. And the reason I brought it up was because, you with your platform, you open that door for many people. And whether you went through it as bad as some of the other people, the main thing is people talking about it. And you say you talk to it with your girls, but being a man, some men need to
I'm
hear
making an
about this.
exception for you. As a professional, I could have easily glided out of that without saying I didn't want to talk about it. But I'm not going to do that because you're
Yeah.
Slim Overton. And I appreciate you inviting me. And I don't know who can glean something from this. Sometimes we have to be sacrificial. It's not about me, it's about my story being able to help someone. And I shared about the book that I'm doing. I'm not talking about that in the first book, but I'll talk about it in the second book.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll go away from this. The last thing I want to say about that, is sometimes it's good for the parents as well, because in
Mhm.
a lot of those situations, you have to learn how to look for signs, or a lot of times the parents don't believe, when the kid does talk about it because it's
That's
a
right.
relative or a close friend. So, it's
I'm
just
glad
a
you
matter
shared
of
that.
getting that conversation started and getting people comfortable about talking about it. In situations where they wouldn't normally talk about it. Ladies sitting around having tea, and somebody might, it might take a big burden off somebody's heart to
Oh,
have
you're
that
definitely
conversation with
okay
those
with me.
girlfriends
Yeah,
that they
you're
can
okay with
trust.
me. You didn't do anything wrong. You can't do anything wrong because you're very. Let me say something about you.
Mm,
I see you, I do, and I see your show, and I can appreciate that you're a respectful gentleman. I know you and your wife. I'm just
mm.
saying I've never held it like that, but it's okay. I was fine. It was just taking me a minute to get my thoughts together because when I'm with the women, I go a little deeper. So I wanted to make sure I
Yeah,
didn't, go a little
yeah. I
too deep.
didn't expect
So
you to
that's
go
the
that
reason
deep,
for
just
that.
in
It had
general.
nothing to do with you because you're respectful. I've
Yeah,
seen you interview some major leaders in the city, those in fraternities, civic league, everything. So you're well respected. So it had nothing to do with you at all. It just had to do with me getting my thoughts together so I didn't go too deep.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. That's for another time. And
I respect you.
I would say that would be with professionals. That's why sometimes on Portsmouth Coffee Talk, if we get into the mental health thing, we'll bring on professionals. Professors from School of Psychology at Norfolk State
Mhm.
or other colleges, because we don't profess to be that.
No.
But anyway, so let me shout out two people that are watching. Two of my Unionites. I went to Virginia Union University. Portia James and Ken Crosley. Portia
Portia
James
and
was
Ken.
Portia James was there when I was there. She was actually down to earth, but she was the president's daughter. I know she's gonna get mad at me for saying that, but she was the president's daughter.
You go, Portia.
But she was really down to earth, and my dad was on the board of trustees, so we thought I had something in common there. And Ken Crosley went back to school at the age of 57, and has gotten his undergrad degree, and is marching next this weekend with his masters. So shout out to
Oh,
Ken, Kev,
congratulations.
not Ken, Kev. I'm sorry, Kevin. So anyway, I
Okay.
just wanted to shout out to them for watching. So let's get back to you and the girlfriends T .com and the entrepreneur that you are. And you talked about my interviews. I watched yours as well, and and of course you were on Coast Live, the CBS local show, and and I've seen your interviews with people's amazing ladies, and you have something coming up with Dr. Reddick, uh, who uh, who created the Mustard Seed Building downtown Portsmouth. And I don't
Yes.
know if you remember, that used to be historic building. Used to be the famous. Excuse me. Need some of your tea. It used to be the famous building that sold furs and everything for years in the city of Portsmouth. But seeing that building being put to use like it is, and going into the ice cream shop and seeing young teenage girls running a business, you know, it's all about community. And I'm glad you're doing something with her. But all the people that you've interviewed, you know, how, what has been the most impressive? I know it puts you on the spot for that. Well, some of the most impressive interviews you've had, because a lot of these ladies are local people, and we always talk about the national figures, but it's always good to put spotlights on the amazing ladies that we have right here in the Hampton Roads area doing great things in the community. And you hear about them, but you don't always hear about them like you might other people, men. Uh, uh, they don't always get the credit that I think they should. Uh, so how is that? And that's why I appreciate what you do, is highlighting those women. So what have been some of the most impressive uh, people you met or interviewed? Because you've interviewed or been around some heavy hitters in the Hampton Roads area and beyond.
You're gonna get me in trouble. So there's so
That's,
many
that's just like
notable.
saying, "Who's your favorite child?" Yeah.
There you go. There you go. But no, I'll name. I'm only naming a few. There are many. There are many. But
I, I
early
I would
on.
say every one of them are
Oh
important.
yes,
Some
every
that might
last one.
stand out.
Good answer. Every last one.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say the ones that the I can say this. All of them were excellent. But the interviews that the audience resonated more so with, where there were, well, actually, well, I'm going to say the women first, but one of them was a male, and that was Dr. Keith Newby,
Mhm.
because of the heart disease, number
Right.
one killer in women. So the women came there for that. But we also had like Glennis Albright, Gerald Albright. I hate to say Gerald Albright's wife, because she has her own identity, but sometimes people have never heard of her. She's a waffle queen. My pastor, Pastor Janine Macbeth, and the one
Mhm.
with her and her daughter Lydia, classic. I'm not saying this because they're my pastors, but
Mhm.
Bishop Kim and Elder Val, I mean, they were excellent. It was just so many that it's innumerable. I'm trying to go back. Stephanie, everybody knows the Honorable Stephanie Morales. She was
Yes.
excellent. These are people who started with me early on. I mean, early on. Some young people, Lieutenant Arabia Shanklin. I don't know if her what do you call that? What do you call it? Their title. I don't know if her title her rank has changed, but she was Lieutenant
Mhm.
Arabia Shanklin when I interviewed her. And there's just so many. I thank God. I'm actually going to be interviewing next month Mayor Jones from Newport News. So I'll
Mhm.
kick that off with my next season of podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, you really are natural at it. And was it something that, as you were in college and went into the ministry as well, was that something that you kind of wanted to do, or it was in the back of your mind all those years at the post office? Because it was kind of something you did at the post office. You were kind of involved in that, like a people person. So
Yes.
when you got away, the pandemic probably brought a lot of people out doing some. That's how we started with, you know, with not going into the studio on the radio. We started doing it, from home like this virtually during the pandemic, and it started caught on. And the pandemic sort of created a lot of podcasters, and people were able to do some things that they always wanted to do. Was that something you always wanted to do? Because you really are natural at it, and And you have to be good to sort of bring in your interviews. And I call them interviews. They are interviews, but they're more like conversations. And that's when they're like conversations that brings the people out. They feel more comfortable in talking about themselves for one thing and what they're doing without feel like they're tooting their own horn. And some people need to do that anyway. But through conversation, you can do it in a respectful way. And I mean, and you're kind of a master at doing that and bringing that out to people. Is it something? I'll go back to the original question. Is it
No, you're
something that you
fine.
always wanted to do? And
Not really.
I'm sure you're going to do it going forward. But
Yes.
how did you
I
how did
will
you
go ahead.
how did you come about it? I mean, was it the pandemic that sort of
Yes.
brought it up? Yeah,
The
like you did with
pandemic
mental.
brought everybody out on podcast because we had no choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
everybody has a
even
podcast.
the newscasters were doing it. I mean, just to see the newscasters, they're not in their headline news studio with all these
Right.
graphics and everything. They're just in their kitchen. I mean, everybody was like, we're just glad to be alive and able to still have a job and be
Yeah.
safe.
And it was so great to see those newscasters
It
do it because we
was.
got to see another side of them. We got to see them more as who they really are, as opposed to them just sitting there reading the news. And you can see some of their personality in that, but when they start doing those little side videos and things, sometime in the studio, sometime at home, we say, okay, I really appreciate that person a lot more because they seem more like everybody else, because sometimes we can put those people higher than they should be, and they're just people just like us. So
People. I'm
it's
glad
something.
you asked that because no, I never saw myself doing that. And I'll share something that most people probably would not believe, but it's true. I'm a little shy. I'm not now. I'm not now about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I could
shy.
have
I'm a
said,
little
when was
shy.
that?
Seriously, I'm a little shy about doing something on my own. Now, being
Yeah,
on somebody else's show, okay, I'm always nervous before I speak. That's a good thing. It hopefully means that I try to think before I speak. That's
right,
what
right.
that I don't, you don't want to be caught off guard. You don't want to be so like, this is going to be a piece of cake that you're caught off
Yeah,
guard. So you're relaxed, you look relaxed, but actually I'm guarded. I'm guarded
yeah,
throughout every interview. The first 5 minutes are critical for me. And they're probably are for you. If anything goes wrong within that first 5 minutes, you would think I'm a champion, but I'm not. Because if it goes wrong, it kind of messes with my thought process. Although
yeah.
I got a smile
It's
on
the
my face,
universal
but
flow.
I'm really messed up mentally. Like, because
Hmm.
I judge myself. How could you forget to do this or that? And so it may take me a minute. And it depends upon the guest. Now, if I'm just kicking it with the girlfriends and we're having a very casual conversation, then I feel comfortable. But when I have this expert, this trained person here, I value their time. So I want to
Hmm.
make sure that I'm as prepared as I can be. But to get back to your question, it
Go ahead.
wasn't easy for me. I had to start it with a village. I wouldn't. Okay, let me say this. I'm going to share something that few people probably believe. I don't feel comfortable going live just talking, meaning I'm just sharing a topic. Whenever I go live by myself, I'm comfortable, but it's because I'm not talking about me. I'm talking
Yeah,
about this store that I'm in. I'm always more comfortable talking about someone else. But if I just got to get out there, I mean, I'm petrified. I'm still petrified of going out on TikTok and just being out there and waiting on people to come by myself. I need to have somebody with me. And it's not because I'm shy. I don't want to feel funny. That's the right word for it. I don't want to feel funny or embarrassed because nobody joins my live while I'm talking. I'm just like, is anybody out there in the stratosphere that's interested in this? So, but in my girlfriend's tea group, that's home for me. I can talk to them by myself. I'm talking about just
yeah,
reaching out. So I'm always nervous, which is a good thing because it keeps us temperate. It keeps us humble. I don't take any interview, not one, for granted. And I never want to be embarrassed during an interview. I don't want to ever embarrass a guest during an interview. I don't want to ever
yeah.
embarrass the host during an interview. I'm
Yeah, a
very
lot of that
sensitive to
stuff you
that.
can't get back. It's out there.
Can't get it back. It's out there. I'm gonna tell you something
Yeah.
funny that happened to me that I didn't know. I was doing StreamYard, or was it Zoom? I think it was StreamYard. I got away from Zoom. And you probably, I don't know if you knew this, but something happened with my connection. And I was booted out. And so I was calling the gentleman. I forget, I can't think of his name now. He's a movie. He writes movies. He did a great movie that I went to. I think it was called Amanda. I don't know. But it was here in downtown Norfolk. Can't think of his name.
He was a local guy? Okay.
No, he was from Charlottesville, but I think he grew up here or he has ties here. I can't think of his name. But anyway, I was interviewing him for the second time, I believe, and I got kicked out. So I called him on the phone and I said, my God, I got kicked out. I don't know what's going on. And he said, I'm still here. I mean, you could hear it on the live, him talking to me. I didn't know this. I said, that's impossible because I didn't know. I said, how could you still be live? And it's my account. How could you be live? And I got kicked out. He said, Sebrina, we are live. Everyone can hear you. I was done. But he had me on speaker. So I hung up and I got back in. And sure enough, I wrote StreamYard and they said, yes, the live will continue without you.
It will continue. Once you set it up and if you go out, the people are still there. I found that out too, because most of the time I set up the shows, the coffee talk, and if my feed goes out, they're still talking and they're still. One time they well, on co-host, when you have co-hosts, that can happen. But we had the co-host, the regular co-host, and we had invited some people from Virginia Beach, and it was a political conversation. And I went out and I watched the tape later, and they did fine with. They continued. It was almost like they were. It's almost like they were glad I wasn't there because I would interrupt and say, "Well, explain that." So yeah, that happens, and that happens. So when you come on here live, anything can happen. Even when you're recording, I guess you have a little bit more control because you can edit. If a word slips out, or you just don't like certain things that the way it was said, you can take it out. But I like the excitement about going live and maybe having people comment, and it's taking a chance sometimes going live, but we go live every time we go on, and we've had some boo-boos. We've had some people up there that just blurted out the 4-letter words, and which sometimes on YouTube you can get away with it, and because you see other people just talking the way they want, but it's a chance you take, and that's the way we do it. But anyway,
and another faux pas can be, for me, I send out questions in advance. I do. I send out topics, that I'm going to bring up because I don't want anyone sideline. And well, I tell you this, everybody's a professional. I mean, I've interviewed April Woodard. I interviewed her by herself, and then I interviewed with her daughter. And April is truly a consummate professional. But even with her, I gave her the questions, like this is the area, because it's just me. I want the guests, it's not rehearsed, but I give them the topics. And it's not like I'm asking, like, I'm going to, this is what I want us to talk about so that they can be prepared. So when you go off, I know I gave the topic and I said, okay, I specifically told a guest, I'm going to ask about this. They said they reviewed it. And then when I asked the question, because I felt prepared, I felt confident, I had already versed them on it. And then I asked the question and the person said, now that's where I have to correct you. And I was appalled because I'm like, wait a minute, I gave these questions a week in advance and you're telling me on my show that you have to correct me. So I kept a face like I do now. I was smiling, but I was fuming inside, but I never told her because I knew it wasn't intentional. I knew it wasn't intentional, but I'm like, Reed, it wasn't, it's not from me. I said, studies say this, and that person said to me, now that's where I have to correct you. It's nothing for me to correct. I'm not in that field. I'm just trying to help you get your business out here. So that was interesting.
And you take a chance by going live, and most of the guests we have on Coffee Talk and the guests I have here, we have a general idea what we're going to talk about. And I might have questions that I never get to.
Right.
because the flow of the conversation a lot of times dictates which direction we're going to go in. I don't know what's going on with my throat here, and I
Oh, you.
can't edit that out. But
Why don't
but
you take
you
a break?
do take a
Why don't you take a
chance.
break
You do
to
take
take
a
care of your
chance.
voice? Hmm?
Yeah. Excuse me.
I don't know if you need to get if you take a break. I'm okay. I'll wait for you, or I can talk
No,
while you're doing it. Take your
let me
time,
get.
because I know how that feels. I've been in that situation. Take your time. This is
But
your show.
but you talk about the professionals. We've had local newscasters on. Just had Bonita Bingsley
Yes,
Harris on. And it's
Harrison.
amazing how, like you talk about nervous, how all the experience they've had interviewing people, they're not used to being interviewed. But
That's it.
but I, in the pre-talk, I do have pre-talks with the people in most cases. And during the pre-talk, they say they're nervous and everything like that. And I said, well, once you get started, if it's something that you really interested in or like to talk about, then we can't shut them up. And it's
That's
not like
right.
we want to shut them up because I want them to share, what they're sharing, because that's why we don't get to some of the questions they ask. You sort of lead them to something, and next thing you know, they're talking, and it becomes a great interview. You just sit there and let them do their thing. But
Right.
other times you don't want dead air. You ask a question and the person just answers it, and that's it. Because you kind of look for a follow up to their answer. You don't look for yes and no questions. So you try not to ask those answers. So you try not to ask those kind of questions that are in with a yes
They're
or a no.
painful.
But
They're painful.
sometimes people will do that anyway. And
Yes. I've had that
and then
too.
you
And
have
I'm
to look
like,
for your
my
notes.
God. Yeah. I had that. I don't know if you remember, I used to co-host with Tamika, and
Yeah.
this person it was painful. I mean, I had 10 questions, and I
Like
think they
pulling
went through
teeth.
10 questions in like 12 to 15 minutes, and it was a 30-minute interview. And I was like, my God, help me. I was telling, can you think of something? Because I just never had anybody just give me a 1 minute response. I mean, 30 seconds in some cases. It was
Yeah.
painful. It was very painful. But you just end the interview and you just call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the best interviews or conversations is like what we're having now. You start out talking about one thing and then you sort of, transition into something else. And a lot of times it makes for interesting conversations and even people watching might enjoy. But you never know. Sometimes you think you have a very interesting subject and you get very little views, and sometimes someone will come on and say, "Wow, that wasn't the best," and the views are out the roof. So it's kind of hard to predict, especially when you're going live or when you recording what the people are going to like. You have to sort of guess on that sometimes. I think
Yes.
with you have a theme throughout your interviews. It's like girl power or woman power, introducing women that are strong, that are doing great things. So that thing, that kind of thing keeps people watching because they know what to expect from you. And sometimes we have that problem of kind of jumping around the different subjects. And that's why sometimes we get some views that are great and some views that are not so great. It takes a while for people to catch up with it.
And
So
you go ahead.
I was finished. Go ahead.
You mentioned the US Postal Service and my training. So in the US Postal Service, I I wasn't a host or anything, but I was often the MC, mistress of ceremonies for
That's right.
events, for postmaster
Mhm.
installations. I planned postmaster installations. Actually, for our area, I can only tell you what they told me. I was the first person to take postmaster installations in Hampton Roads outside the United States Postal Service. We just didn't have a big crowd. Who wants to come? I'm keeping it real. Who wants to come on a mailroom floor to a ceremony? So the first one that I booked for the U.S. Postal Service was actually the Chrysler Museum, and they were floored. I mean, at no cost. I won't tell anyone how I did it, but God is good. So at no cost. I mean, it was legit, but they just said, well, if you do this, then it's free. So I did it. I did it, the way they wanted. I invited who need to be invited. But that was then. That's been at least decades ago. I did one at the Mariners Museum, Norfolk State University, Hampton University. God has been good. He's
Yeah,
been very
see,
good. Yes.
you turned into like a representative for the postal service. You
Locally,
know,
I did. I wasn't,
locally.
yes, locally Hampton Roads, but I wasn't district wide. But what I did mainly within the postal service that I enjoyed the most was customer service or customer seminars. So I enjoyed doing customer seminars. I actually started training in public speaking via the United States Postal Service. It wasn't the U.S. Postal Service per se. There were managers within the Postal Service that decided to start a speech club, and it used to be called Toastmistress. When I joined, it was International Training in Communication. So Toastmistress started before Toastmasters. So people think it's the same, but it's not. And then it became International Training in Communication after that. So I trained in International Training Communication, ITC, for 10 years as a speaker. I speak very fast, naturally. I've learned to slow down, but my inclination is to talk too fast. So I'm controlled when I have the mic. When I have the mic and I'm on the camera, but naturally speaking, I talk too fast.
So, so, so you got the masters. Speaking of, you got the masters in ministry with a concentration in leadership. So,
Yes.
how you wanted to include your faith or the ministry? How is that helping what you do? I mean, what led you to that? You already had your degree, your BS degree from Virginia Wesleyan, and you probably were already accomplished in what you're doing now. Why? What was with the ministry thing? Faith drew you there, or it was something to sort of help improve what you're doing and include faith when you're talking to people? What was that?
I'm glad you asked because I'm still in school.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't finished yet. I'm still in school. I'm taking my last class, and guess what it is? Public speaking. I had to wait a whole year to take this class. What
So,
happened was I should have been finished last year, but I don't know if you saw where I posted on Facebook. It's been 2 years now, where according to the doctors, I had a transient ischemic attack. Thank God there was no evidence of it, but based upon what I told them I saw in my vision for 13 minutes, they said I had a migraine that led to a mini stroke.
hmm,
So I took off. I took off from class. The thought of any level of stress, not that class was stressful. I just didn't do anything. I was trying to. I separated myself so that I could talk to God. I really did. I was like, God, hey, I know I don't live in a perfect world, but you've always blessed me with health, not perfect health, but health where my lifestyle is not impacted. And since heart disease and stroke runs in my family, and I don't say that too often because I just keep it to prayer. God, hey, it prayerfully you'll bless me wherein I'm watching what I eat and I'm exercising. So, but
hmm,
I got into school because of my pastor, Bishop Courtney Macbeth.
hmm,
He became the president of school, but he was talking about it. He was talking about us attending Virginia Christian College, used to be Virginia Bible College, before he was the president. So when he started sharing about it, I said, oh, I could never do that. I don't want to go back to school. But I did. I did because I love ministry.
hmm.
So I said, let me see how I can do. So with the first class, I highly recommend, and I'm not saying I highly recommend all education, but by experience, I highly recommend Virginia Christian College. It was the first time I went to a school where I didn't feel like I had to study so much for the subject. Don't misunderstand me. I don't know the deep parts. I don't know about all of the errors of the Bible and all of that. But when you're in a Christian college, and I think this is I think this is a truthful statement for all of them. The instructor is more spirit-led.
Mhm.
And that's what I found in all of them. And I don't think that's just Virginia Christian College. So we still have to do the work. We still have to read, but they veer wherever based upon the topics that we bring up. And I love that. So I'm like, really? I can go to school and still feel God's presence. Like one of the most interesting courses I took was spiritual formation, where because I'm always busy, I'm learning to sit still now. I'm 61 years old. And I'm finally learning to just sit still some. People probably think I don't, but I've slowed down a lot. And when I had to go to the park, that's what I chose. If we could do anything we wanted to be in the presence of God, to just take in the presence. So I went out to Isaiah garden. And I was there in the garden, just looking up at the trees or whatever. But it was wonderful. I can't describe the peace that I felt when we separate ourselves.
Yeah.
So I like it because it's something I enjoy. I enjoy talking about God and learning more about God. And it's not so deep. It's not so deep. And I have nothing against those who are truly into philosophy and hermeneutics and all of that. But it's not so deep that I can't relate to it.
Right. And I'm so glad you brought that up about mentioning the mini stroke and a lot of people don't realize that they're stressed. They so used to moving and going and don't realize it. Sometimes you really have to take that time to sit down. Every once in a while, I ride out here to the city park and just sit there. And one day I was out there, I did a video while I was out there, just showing how peaceful and letting people know this is something we all should do, even though you may not think you're stressed. A lot of things, the mind is excuse me, magnificent thing. And a lot of things go through our mind, and we just have to sometimes just sit back and be calm and let those energies just relax and flow through us, you know, and it renews our spirit for one thing, it renews us physically. And a lot of times people just don't take time to do that. Even people in their retirement think that because they're retired, they don't need to take time for themselves, because a lot of times when you retire, people expect more from you. Say, well, since you
That's right.
retired, can you run me to the doctor? Or can you do this? And you do it, not realizing how much stress you might be putting on yourself, if helping others before you're thinking about yourself. So, yeah. And another good thing is drinking your tea. We'll
Oh,
get
this
back
is
to that.
uniquely golden, by the way, everyone. This is uniquely golden. It has ginger and turmeric. It's excellent for the skin. It has beet pieces in it. It is really good. Has a little bite to it, but not much. So here's
Yeah,
to uniquely golden.
that's what I was going to say about your tea. It has a purpose in it. It's not just tea to taste good, even though that's one of the qualities of it. Tastes good, but it's made to relax you. And where do you get the different names that you call? I have one. The one I had here was Tranquility, Please.
Mm-hmm.
Where do those names come from? Because all of them are unique within themselves, but do they have specific meanings, or how that particular tea might treat you? Or should I look for tranquility? Did I say that right?
Tranquility.
Please.
Yes.
Should I look for that if I'm stressed out about certain things, or how, okay, I'm stressed out because I can't play ball like I used to.
Yeah. Well,
But that's not the reason. I'm just bringing that up. But it's certain. To go back to my original question, how do you come up with the names, and uh, is it associated with what the tea can do for you, or how it tastes? Where does that come from? Up
well,
here?
it's you gave a significant point. It is about what the tea does. If it has chamomile, anything that relaxes you, then of course I'm going to come up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Of course, I'm going to come up with a name that does just that. So Tranquility Please has rooibos. It has chamomile, linden, and passion flower petals. I pulled up my site so I could answer you. And orange pieces and cinnamon, it is really good. And it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really make you sleepy. And I heard women say it just takes the edge off. It takes the edge off, helps you to relax. All the others, all of them are based upon how they make me feel. So what I think about them, I don't really plan it. I just say, what is this? So Belle of the Ball. And my mantra is every woman is the belle of the ball. Every woman is the belle of the ball in her own right, in her own castle, whatever that castle, her own. Every woman is, as they say, the gem, the deal. I was going to say something else, but that wasn't appropriate. But every woman is that. She is the belle of the ball in her own right. I mean, every woman is the belle of the ball in her own home. She at best feel like she's the belle of the ball in her own home. But, every woman has her day when she comes in, and it doesn't matter. It could just be casually dressed or whatever, but she is it. She has the it factor. So every woman has that capacity. So that's what I love about Belle of the Ball, because it edifies. It edifies. I don't always feel like I'm the belle of the ball, but when I'm on it for Sebrina. We're not competing with others. I'm on it. Sebrina confidence. My confidence shines when I feel good and when I know I'm on it for me. And then there's Apple Spice Divine. It just puts you in the mood of spices. So it all depends. Cutie Colada. I love Cutie Colada. Cutie Colada is really good. Unapologetically berries, hands down. Most people's favorite. It has elderberries and carrots. And I didn't even hear about elderberries until COVID came and how good they are for us. But I do want to share this because one of my customers shared this. That's very important. There are teas that have specific health benefits, period. A green tea is a super tea, high in antioxidants. You can Google it and you'll find so many things it can do, but it does not mean that one cup of tea is going to do all of that. So we have to do other things with that. It's great to have antioxidants and flavonoids. Hope I'm saying the right, flavonoids. Oh, I got to know how to pronounce it now. They help to reduce the free radicals that break down our body. But I've had people say, well, and it's true, if the tea does not have Camellia sinensis, which is what makes tea, that's real tea. Usually anything with that plant is going to have caffeine, like green tea has caffeine. I don't care for a lot of caffeine. I don't care for the way it tastes, to be quite honest. But I would drink green tea because I know it's good for me, but I don't like a lot of black teas. And it's interesting because I can drink coffee, but I drink my coffee with oat milk. So it softens it, it smooths the taste out. But what I want to say is, even without the tea, the plant Camellia sinensis that makes tea, there are health benefits to tea. There's health benefits to ginger and turmeric. So some people get so twisted that they don't see it's better than drinking soda. It's better than drinking something with all that sugar in it. Now you can put sugar in the tea, but I choose not to. I drink mine mostly naturally or with good quality honey.
Yeah, that's one thing good about your tea. You don't have to add any sugar. It has a flavor of its own. If you want a little spark, like you said, you can add the honey to it, and that's probably better for you than any kind of sugar you can add. As we wind down, I want to ask you two other questions. And one thing about the events that you have, and especially the one that's coming up on the 31st featuring Dr. Reddick, uh, how many of your events are for women only, and how many can men come to and benefit as well? Because I believe a lot of events that women have, men should be there, if only to better understand women, and sometimes vice versa. And there are opportunities. There are times when it has to be men only, it has to be women only because of the subject matter and them really understanding what they're talking about. But some of these events that usually feature women, men don't go to, and I think some men should go to, because a lot of times we just don't understand each other. And we should go to support the women for one thing, and to let them know how much we appreciate them and what they do and their value on this earth, and to learn, to learn. So, are your events geared for one or the other or both?
Well, the T is definitely women because we
Okay.
just it's just for us to connect. I haven't done a mixed audience event with male and female yet, but I'm also just to share on May 28th, starting the fourth Wednesdays of every month, I will be hosting my talk show in person. I will not be recording it to go live. So I'm going to be doing,
Okay.
I love that because I've never done my talk show with a live audience. It's just been here.
Yeah.
And I,
I,
and I love
I want
virtually.
I want to try that too one day.
Oh, you can
You
come
know,
to that. Yeah, the
yeah.
talk
No,
show
I'm
is not
saying,
just women. Let me
yeah.
put
I just wanted to
let me just say
try
this. The talk show
try
is for
doing it.
anybody. Yes.
I just wanted to try doing it with an audience. You know, I know we are amateurs. We're not like them, but I just wanted to try with an audience, especially with some subjects that I think
Wait
that
a minute. I'm
would.
sorry. I think that's my phone. I don't know what it
Oh,
is
okay.
though. Is that mine or yours?
I think it's yours, not mine.
Okay, just a minute.
Go ahead.
It was right behind
Okay.
me. I usually mute it, but
Oh, okay.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I would like to try that one time with a live audience. But
Come
anyway,
this
back to,
Wednesday, May 28th. May 28th.
yeah, yeah, I understand the women's thing, and just like men, I'm a part of a group where a bunch of men get together and read books, and it's starting to grow. First, we start out about a few men, and I think it's so important for men to come together and read a book and the different perspectives. The last book we read was called James, and it's not about me, but it's about the story of Huckleberry Finn and the slave that was a part of Huckleberry Finn named Jim. So this is the Huckleberry Finn story per se, told from the eyes of the slave Jim, who preferred to be called James because he was really educated, but he couldn't show that to his. He was a slave. He couldn't show that to his masters because that was uh, he would be in line for a whipping, something like that. But it
Oh,
was a very interesting story. And we got together and it was like four different perspectives of how we saw it, but it was pretty much the same. So I just brought that up because I thought that was important and make an appeal to the men out there. You know,
yeah, come to the
come
talk
together
show.
every once in a while. Come together every once in a while and read a book and just discuss it. You know, it doesn't always have to be about sports and women. You know, try something intellectual sometimes. You know, you'll be surprised how much you can bond as men just having those conversations. And those conversations about the book led to other things that we talked about. So I just had to throw that plug in there. But
I
anyway,
want to
we're
share
going to look.
with your audience that the T is at girlfriendsT.net. So if they go to girlfriendsT.com, that's great. I need to update that site. I haven't touched it in probably a year and a half. So I need to update that. That was geared more for my podcast.
Mhm.
I had it on that site. I have and they could click on to girlfriendsT.net. But I was told if I wanted to be taken seriously in the tea industry, it doesn't need to be on a podcast site. It needs to be a separate site. So that's why I have girlfriendsT.net for the tea.
Oh, okay. Okay. And you have to have a lot of personal things so people can try to tee out, in person, right? Like you did
Yeah.
on the Coast
I'll be
Live show,
serving some of
right?
my tea there. I'll serve a
Yeah.
cup to the audience. Yes.
Okay. And the last question, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on and talking to having a conversation with me. We
Thank
were
you.
kind of all over the place, but that's what conversations are about, and that's why I prefer them sometimes to interviews. You sort of get some interview uh, information in there, but it's more like a conversation or a discussion. The last thing I want to ask you, I'm sure you've had the opportunity uh, to talk to young girls that are coming up, and what would be your message to the young girls coming up? You've been there. You went to my arch rival. You went to Booker T High School. Uh, and I went to IC Norcom, and we were battling all through the years, and both of them are historic. Uh, Still predominantly black high schools, which are very few in the country today. But you went through those teenage years, and you probably had some people that encouraged you in some ways. And it was a time where we really didn't listen to adults, but
Yeah.
the adults that did talk to us subconsciously, they planted a seed there. And as we got older, that seed grew. We remembered what they told us. And we might have still made mistakes, but remember, Miss So and so said this was going to happen, you know. So I'm glad I was prepared for that. So when you have the opportunity to talk to young women, young girls, young women, what is your message to them in letting them know how to prepare themselves for a cruel world, to some men that might not be the right one for them, because sometimes women, we will gravitate towards the wrong person, but that's a whole nother subject. But what is your message to you, to young girls or young women uh, who might want to get into do something like what you're doing, or just want to, don't have the opportunity like other people might have, that might come from humble beginnings, but they need that encouraging. They need those encouraging words from someone like yourself that probably went through or had humble beginnings yourself. What would be your message to them?
Well, thank you. First of all, before you have to end it, I want to say thank you again for the interview. I respect you, I appreciate you, and I thank you for your time, because this is time that you can't get back and is valuable. As for young girls, I have gone to speak at with young elementary, not first and second grade, but maybe fifth and sixth. So I grew up in Tidewater Park. I had low
Mhm.
self-esteem as a child. People find it hard to believe, but I did. I always looked at those who,
Was it because of you, where you grew up, or it was just something else that was, affecting you to give you low self esteem?
I don't,
Was it that you were watching other people that had more, or
it
did you
wasn't
really
because of
know
where,
where it came from? I'm sorry.
okay. It wasn't because of where I grew up at all. It had nothing to do with my surroundings. It had
Okay.
to do with those girls who had clothes,
Yeah.
had, they were more manicured than me, just hair together. And so there
Mhm.
were superficial things, had nothing to do. So again, I think it's very important, but it doesn't matter what our parents do. They can do all of that, but sometimes we still go wayward because we've got to learn for ourselves. But it gives them I say, I don't want to try to say it, heads up, if you're, or leg up, if life is spoken into them. Sometimes it's not the parent. My mother was busy working on minimum wage. It was never
Right.
broke, never broke. Bought two houses, making minimum wage. I don't know how, but she told me how. She said, "Brina, I'm not out there buying shoes and clothes like you." But I'm like, "How, Mama? How?" But Mama always had money. I didn't, because I was too. I
Mhm.
was spending everything I had,
Right.
spending everything I had. So for me, I would say know what you're good at, because I didn't know anything that I was good at. I just loved being a majorette. That was really my only identity in high school. I'm honest. I'm telling you the truth. I don't remember the
Mhm.
classes. Now I was an excellent student according to teachers, but I wasn't focused. Being focused has always been an issue for me. I was always, because I am a dreamer, so I'm
Mhm.
always dreaming or thinking about something instead of doing something. I even catch myself doing that now. That's why I had to reel myself in, because I can get caught up in other people's issues
Mhm.
easily because I just want to help people. I'll call
Right.
someone, and before you know it, hours has gone by because I'm calling people trying to help someone help this person. They're just like, my God, you're just all over the place. So I would say, first of all, because every child, no child is raising his or herself in this country. I don't know, maybe in other countries. So those who are adults, and keep telling them what they're good at.
Right.
Keep telling them what they're good at. So the children, I would say to the young ladies, I always tell them that you are the belle of the ball. even if nobody's ever told them that. That's my mantra for everything now, because I never felt like I was the belle of the ball. Never. I never felt that I was pretty. None of that. None of that. So image is everything. Because if you view, and this is how it was for me when I'm coming up, I viewed light-skinned women as prettier than me, straight hair is prettier than me, clothing prettier than me. Those were all superficial things. But what does the word say? When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, when I became a woman, I put away childish things. And I started to realize the value. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just repeating what you said. Go ahead.
Okay. I started to realize the value in me. So we have to know what we're good at. And you can hold on to what you're good at. I was at an event over the weekend. I received an award, and I met some young students there. I didn't know what the program was going to be about. I just accepted the invitation. And there were some young high school students, and I conversed with a couple of them. And I was like amazed at how forthright they were about what they were going to do. They knew. I never knew what I was going to do. Direction is so very important. So children know what they're good at, even if they're not told. They know, because when they do it, everybody's like, oh, that's it. So know what you're good at. Stay focused. Of course, put God first. As much as a child can fathom putting God first. Keep that relationship with him. But even though I wasn't in Christ, Christ found me, because Christ is always seeking us. So I say, find that sunshine that you have. And I really do mean this. Find that sunshine. Find what you're good at and keep getting better at it. And I share this. And the reason I'm saying, I'll close with this. I shared this just yesterday at the event. I said, I always, on my report card, Miss Linda Catan, I just remember, I still have the report card. She said, I talk too much. I did. I didn't know I was talking too much when I was little, but I heard it a lot as an adult. You talk a lot. I used to go to parties and talk a lot and come home and say, you talk too much. You talk too much. I used to beat myself up. I'm more temperate with it now. So I'm an extrovert. I am, but I own it. I'm an extrovert. I am an extrovert. I'm learning to be a controlled extrovert, to not talk over people. I'm learning to be that. I'm still learning. I'm not as bad. I'm more controlled in the interview. I don't interrupt my guests in the interview because I'm working. So when I'm working, but it's not naturally who I am, because I tend to say exactly what comes to me. But take what you're good at and become better at it. So I say that to say, hey, I'm doing what I enjoy. I was always told I talk too much, but I'm using that gift. It's been an innate gift inside of me. But now I'm not using it to just talk about Sebrina. I'm using it to encourage others to share their story with me, because I enjoy spotlighting others more so than myself. And I just think it's just like Christ. The more you spotlight others, the more Christ put us out there as his little Christ, the more people will look at the Father. Because the goal is for them to see the Christ in us and not us. We're just the agents, but it comes. That light comes from Christ. I'm not always lit up in Christ. I have my bad days like everyone else, but I'm learning to own it. That's maturity. I'm learning to confess it to God. Hey, I didn't have a good day today. So everybody has something that brings them joy. You tap into that joy if it's good now, if it's good, not if it's evil. If it's good and it's pleasing to God and it's edifying, you tap into that joy and you just become better and better. And that's what I did in international training and communication, because I love public speaking. I learned to avoid the uhs and the ums when I'm controlled. And I've learned to tailor a speech the appropriate way.
What a great message. And I received that as well. I'm still working on the uhs and the ahs. I think that's just a
We
part
all
of me.
are.
I'm still working on that. But anyway, and look, I really appreciate that. And what a great message. And the part about keeping God first. And a lot of people run away from putting God first. because they feel like they always have to be God-like, and that's almost impossible to be
Yeah.
God-like all the time.
We have
But
to
you can
forgive
always
ourselves.
keep
I'm sorry.
God first. And so what a great message, and appreciate you coming on and sharing yourself and sharing all the other things that we talked about this evening. Take care, and uh, I'll try to see you at one of your live events, and
Come in May.
we
Come on
continue
the
just
28th. Men are
yeah,
welcome.
please.
I'm interviewing my hairdresser, Dennis. He'll be there. You won't be the only man. Bring your wife.
Oh,
Bring
okay,
her.
okay, yes, but please remind me. And before you go, just remind people one more time where they can order your tea, anything that you have coming up, especially the event on the 28th and the 31st. Just remind the people that might be watching now or watching later.
Thank you. You can find out about both at girlfriendstea.net. It's where I retail my tea as well as sell tickets for the events. Now, the talk show is free. I just ask that everyone register. So if you show up and you didn't register, you're still going to have to register, because it's no cost. I want people to register so I can stay in touch. That's how I build my audience. But May 31st will feature, of course, Dr. Angela Redditz. The theme is Diamonds and Pearls. It's really a mother-daughter, and we're supposed to do it closer to Mother's Day. So mothers, bring your daughters. Daughters, bring your mom, and come have some magnificent luxury tea. But most important, the conversation is the tea. They get to meet and fellowship with other women. And that's the most exciting thing for me, to see women making connections, not just business connections, because they make those too, but they also make, I would say, new friends, because we're girlfriends. For a day, for 3 hours, we all become one. We all become women united as girlfriends who are just enjoying fellowship.
And it's for all women. Don't have to be intimidated who's there.
Oh no,
It's for all women. Every woman
every
on this earth has value. So
that's right.
it's open to
We
everybody.
welcome. We call everybody girlfriend.
How about it?
Everybody's a
Everybody,
girlfriend.
girlfriend. Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend.
Okay. Thanks again, and thanks everybody
Thank
for watching.
you.
And remember, if you're watching on my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe and make sure you share. And we look for your comments after the show. Take care, and we'll see you next time. And